a little. So, before we start, let's do a quick recap of the last session that we
Assalamu
had.
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Daniel, how are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so before we start, let's do a quick recap of what we covered last time. So basically, we covered the nature and characteristic of true love, what it is, what it does, what happens when one actually is in true love, and how to get it. And when we're talking about, when Mujaddid Sahab Rahmatullah Alayhi is talking about love, he's talking about the real love. And there is again a competitor of the real love, as he clearly defines that there are two loves. Although a man can only love one thing at one time, but there are two things competing for each other. One is the real love, the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the other is the love of oneself, the love of nafs. So a man is either in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or a man is either in love with his own nafs. And Mujaddid Sahab Rahmatullah Alayh also describes how to actually attain the true love, and it is from the Tajalli Zati. That only when a Salik is bestowed with the Tajalli Zati, which is the here it's defined as essential theophany, that when the Salik is granted that status, that he receives one of the Tajalliyats and the revelations of the self of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he is totally rid from his nafs, which is defined as vanishing absolute and Fana Mutlaq, and that is when he actually receives ikhlas.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I just had a quick question. What does tajalliyat mean here in English?
Tajalliyat basically, or you can say revelations, and or you can attribute it to something English cannot actually uh,
Explain.
explain in
Income.
reality, but I can explain, try to explain. You can consider it as a form of lightning. Consider it
Okay.
as a form of lightning, but that lightning contains uh, information and revelations about some of the traits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which are
Okay.
called tajalliyat sifati, because that are related to the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the traits and characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala possesses, like He's Rahim, He's Kareem, He's Jabbar, He's Ahad. These are all the traits and the personality traits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we talk about tajalliyat, the tajalliyat are carry these code, you can say, or specific information or strains of information which are related to specific, sometimes multiple at once. Sometimes a tajalli can contain the tajalli of uh, Rahim and Kareem and Rahman at the same time. But
Mhm.
there is one tajalli which is tajalli of the Zat and the self of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is devoid of anything else, all of his sifat, and it truly embodies the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the self of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is called the Tajalli Zati. Here it is referred to as essential theophany. So only when the Tajalli Zati is bestowed on a Salik, that is when he is completely rid of himself. And we discussed this in last session, that even when the Salik has progressed in his suluk, there are nuances of his nafs that uh, that are remaining uh, in his heart, and that actually drives some of the things that he's doing. For example, and it's this is going to come in the discussion that we're going to do today as well, and inshallah Mujib Saab explains this some beautifully in the coming passage as well. And when Mujib Saab explains that when this vanishing absolute, this fanai mutlaq, I'm going to keep carrying on linking these English words to their actual translations in Urdu or Arabic, so that with time we develop a familiarity with these terminologies as well, because they are essential terminologies, and the word vanishing absolute does not carry the same meaning, or is incapable of carrying the same meaning and the beauty of Fanai Mutlaq. Because Fanai Mutlaq is just so much more vast, just so much more all encompassing of the actual term that it is describing. So, are there any other questions beside the one Daniel asked about the last session? So we can address those questions. And if there aren't any questions, then we can proceed.
I have a question. Which Maktoobat is this?
This is Maktoob number 24 from volume 1.
Number 4
Number
from
24.
24 from volume 1. Okay. Um, I have another question. So, the Tajalliyat is Zati.
Hmm.
If you have um, if you have one at a time, for example, um, is there any kind of specific tartib of like does the tajalli of the self of Allah, does that come after all of the sifat have been done, or
Not necessarily. Good question. Brilliant question, actually. Not necessarily. And the as our Mashaikh tells us, Qasim, I'll move on to your question after this. And our Mashaikh says sometimes a Salik uh, covers his suluk and is rid of the impurities of the nafs, which, as we found out from Mujaddid Saab, is only possible after Tajalli Zati in the first lesson, in the beginning. And sometimes it takes the Salik a lifetime to get there. So
yeah.
that means there is no rule that defines that it's a step-by-step process. It's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may grant that Salik the Tajalli Zati very early, and then later on reveal the depths of his sifat and the depths of his characteristics and traits as he proceeds. But there is no rule. It is all ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ ذُو الْفَضْلِ الْعَظِيمِ.
So this tajalli of the self, what's the Arabic name for that?
It's Tajalli Zati.
Zati. And if would you sorry to ask so many questions. Another question that I have is would you just be able to kind of explain, however best you can, kind of what actually encompasses the person when he goes through that, and the effects of that?
Yeah, I'll try to. Consider, and I would like to thank our Mashaikh who explained this concept so beautifully with examples that uh, I can convey the examples that they've created. Consider there is a light in a dark room, and consider that light is the person who's being bestowed the Tajalli Zati. So when that light is in a dark room, that light would see itself as shining bright and creating so much light everywhere. Now take that bulb and put it outside during the day. Now that light would still exist, but that light would not be able to see its own impact or its own self reflected because of the light that is already there. Get it? So here with me so far. Now take
So if
that.
I okay, yeah, go on.
Now take that light bulb and bring it right next to the sun. Okay.
Hmm.
Now would that light even see itself for that light because of the enormous amount of light being generated from the sun? Now that light is going to stop seeing itself. For the light, that light doesn't exist anymore because that light can only see the enormity or the grandeur of the sun because it's just right in front of it.
Hmm.
And the impact of the light is completely negated, even though it exists. So when we say that when Tajalli Zati occurs, the vanishing absolute and Fana accompanied, which means the Salik stops seeing himself completely, and is now only wherever that Salik is now looking, he's only seeing the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even inside himself, even inside uh, in all the actions that he's occurring, in all the actions and the things that are happening to him, he can only see the actual doer. And when I say the actual doer, the Arabic term for that is fa'il haqiqi, the person who's actually doing the deed. And in always, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Quran states, Wallahu ghalibun ala amri walakin aktsarun nasi la ya'lamun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has absolute control over everything that he does. Everything that's happening wherever is actually the fa'il haqiqi, and the actual doer is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now that Salik can actually see beyond, if when we say, even when we say like superficially, it's like, for example, if I praise you that Daniel, you've asked a brilliant question, and you're going to say, no, no, that all thanks to Allah, He's the one who's giving me all this knowledge. But deep down, there's something, some part that states, no, I did come up with this question. I thought about it. I I pondered over it, and I came up with this question. But when a Salih progresses, he then attributes everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he actually sees the factors in play that lead to that action being happening. So this is what a Salih sort of goes, if I can explain it. But remember, uh, there's a reason that Tasawwuf is not taught from books. There's a reason
Yeah.
for that. Tasawwuf is from Alam-e-Mehsusat, and where uh, if I can describe Alam Mehsusat, is from the realm uh, of realizations and feelings. You have to have deep realizations and insights, and feel and actually see what you're being taught and read for that deeper realization. Because even when I tell you, the realization and the insight and the internalization that you have from this is still superficial, because it's academic. But when you actually see this, when you actually experience this, your realization is on a completely different level. Nobody would need to actually explain it to you, because now you've seen it. So there's a reason that with tasawwuf, the academics actually come afterwards. It's the amal, the path of the suluk that one needs to traverse to get to that deeper realization and understanding. Hopefully, this has answered your question,
I
Qasim.
will not. Yeah, go on.
Ji, Jazakallah khair. Azad. I think you answered it. I'm just going to repeat Alam-e Mesusat. Alam-e Mesusat, in just colloquial terms, is the deep reflection and the ability to see and internalize the truth for what it is. Is that the colloquial definition?
Yeah, it is exactly
Thank you.
what. And one thing that I would like to state as a rule, when we read these maktubats, it's a framework that we need to define for ourselves, is we need to stick to the topic that we are covering, because these are deep academic topics about tasawwuf and suluk. And if we start to dive deep into each of these things here at the beginning, uh, uh, it's going to create slight confusion for us, maybe, and
Mhm.
distract us from the purpose, which is to have enough high level understanding so that we get to action. The goal here is to be motivated enough and driven enough to act on these things, and let these insights from these great people lead us to actually inspire us to actually follow in their footsteps, and get from uh, academic knowledge to actual action. That, because that is only where, that is the only thing that is going to bring us the insights that are actually needed.
I mean, inshallah.
Inshallah.
I have one more question. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. It's just something I want to just understand before we obviously go forward. So, an example of tajalliyat sifati would be, for example, if Allah's name is Rahman, and I understand that and internalize the sifat of Rahman, right, mercy, whereas tajalliyat Zati is the pure understanding of our aqidah, which is that Allah controls everything. And once you've had that realization of Tajalliyat Zati, then you know that He's the doer behind everything, and that's like a reality within you.
Even the understanding that Allah is the doer behind everything is also a tajalli sifati. It's the tajalli of Qadir. Zat, Allah
Okay.
subhanahu wa ta'ala is Qadir. The tajalli
Okay.
Zati is just the realization of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it actually, the tajalli Zati encompasses it contains all of the sifat. And you just, above all, the tajalli Zati, it helps you rid yourself of yourself. Because when you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala apart from all his sifat, but as a whole, then only then will you be able to not see yourself completely and completely be devoid of yourself. And what does that mean? You will stop loving yourself completely. Yani you will be rid of the, because even at a progressed stage, a salik still loves, and it is going to come when we discuss this. Even in awliya, they are driven by their nafs slightly, because, and when we proceed, inshallah, this concept is going to have more clarity, that even the abrar, even the abrar, the Mujaddid Sahib is going to discuss the concept of Muqarrabeen and Abrar very shortly. So even Abrar, some of their deeds, if you look at it from the perspective of Muqarrabeen, you are going to see that there's a part that their nafs is playing in driving their deeds. Although it may be very insignificant, very subtle, but it is there. So only when the Tajalli Zati is bestowed on a salik, that is when he is rid of he sees Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a whole and stops seeing himself and stops loving himself completely. Make sense?
I have one more question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So would one say that once a person gets to Jallat Zati, his nafs is mutmain?
Exactly. Because his nafs is not there anymore. He's doing whatever, he's attained pure ikhlas. And if you give me some time and let us proceed with the lesson, inshallah, a lot of these questions are actually answered in the passages that are coming. So maybe a lot of these questions will be answered.
Inshallah. Sorry about that.
No problem. No need to be sorry. The whole purpose and the whole point is to get an understanding. But remember what we discussed in the first session, the start. The niyyah is to actually get to action and not get confused and bogged down by the terminologies and how they happen. Because the disclaimer is right there in the beginning, in the start. The real knowledge and the real essence of this information is only going to be bestowed when we get to these positions in our own suluk. And even if we understand it academically, what good does it do us? For example, I know, for example, we can now all explain beautifully what is the difference between Tajalli Zati, Tajalli Sifati, and all these things. What good does it do to us? Nothing. In terms of akhirah, how much beneficial it is, I don't know. But when we actually experience the real beauty of Tajalli Zati is in experiencing that Tajalli Zati. And the purpose is to be motivated enough. Who doesn't want to rid himself of the vagaries and the nuances of our nafs? We all know how pathetic it is, yet we still love our nafs. We may disclaim it, but our actions define where our true allegiances lie. A man is with whom he loves, and we are truly 100% with our own nafs, and it is defined by the actions we do. We are driven by, so we all of us want to rid ourselves of our nafs, and it is only when we realize that what we are not what we are ignoring in pursuit of this love of our own self is so much more beautiful and so much more worthy of the chase and cause. Once I heard a Buzurg mention that the whole purpose of this suluk and everything is to get, because in Tasawwuf there are two things. Now please don't get bogged down by the terminologies. Tasfiya qalb and taskiya nafs. Tasfiya qalb is clarification of the heart, and when tasfiya qalb happens, what happens in Salik sees some visions and some insights and gain all these things. But even at that time, his taskiya nafs has not happened. But what it does is motivates the Salik. It motivates the Salik to try and strive so that he achieves taskiya nafs. And that is the whole point of tasfiya qalb. So that the Salik is motivated. Because once the Salik is motivated, only then he will do all the deeds that are. This is not easy. It's not easy. The path of Suluk and Tasawwuf is not easy. It's rigorous. It demands dedication. It demands a lot of effort and obviously a lot of puzzle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not undermine anyone's action. If someone, if like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you come towards me one step, I come towards you 10 steps. So when a salik strives in the pursuit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does bestow all these ni'mah and all these blessings. Okay?
Yeah.
So
Right.
now the topic that's coming is actually even more confusing. But inshallah, we are going to enjoy. And now that we have our framework laid down, so we had covered till here when this love called essential love is there, reward from the beloved and affliction from him becomes equal to the lover. That when the salik, he has received the Tajalli Zati, he now has the essential love, and characteristic and trait of that essential love is that the reward and affliction, pain and pleasure from the beloved is equal to them. So what happens when this state is achieved? So at this time, sincerity is there, and which is the actual goal of tasawwuf is to attain ikhlas in our amal, because at the day of the judgment, our deeds are not going to be counted. How many deeds Zeeshan did, or how many deeds Qasim did, or how many deeds Daniel did. They're going to be weighed. So what is going to bring the weight in those deeds? It's sincerity, ikhlas. And again, sincerity does not have that same weightage and beauty as ikhlas. So what happens is, when the biggest blessing that one receives after the essential love is that this salik is now bestowed with ikhlas, and he worships not the Lord except for his sake. And he is now only worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because for him the pleasure and pain is now equal. He and for us, trust me, for someone who has not attained this stage, it's not very easy for them to understand this state, because what it is saying is, in essence, because we've been brought up in a very reward based system. Do this, you get this. Do that, you get that. Don't do this, you will be punished. Do these bad things and you will be punished. So we are brought up in a very reward based system since growing up as a child. So it's part of who we are. So to actually unlearn that is not possible without divine intervention. That what this means is that this salik is now praying namaz, and even if the result of him praying namaz is he's being punished, for him that's okay, because he's indifferent towards the result of his action. He's doing that action just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that my Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked me to do this and I'm doing this. It does not matter whether he rewards me for this, whether he even punishes me for this. So he is indifferent towards the action or the result of his deeds. Even just listening to it sounds confusing for us, for me at least. Not for the sake of his self, seeking thereby to have rewards and avoid afflictions, since the two become alike to him. This is the state of the Niled. Niled means Muqarrabeen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has discussed quite a lot about Muqarrabeen in the Quran. And in some of the ayah of related to Jannah in Surah Dahar, I would recommend that we read Surah Dahar, the tarjuma along with tafsir of under some reliable ulama karam, to understand the difference between, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has explained the difference between Abraar and Muqarrabeen. That and one of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Jannah, that the Abraar, they will receive that wine in which mizajuhu tasneem, that it will have slight hint of tasneem. And then the definition of tasneem, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the preceding ayah, what is tasneem? Aynan yashrabu bihal muqarrabun, that the wine that carries hints of tasneem. And what is tasneem? Tasneem is a river from which the Muqarrabeen drink. And the Muqarrabeen are drinking complete tasneem, and the Abraar, they get just hints and chunks of that subtleties of tasneem. So this is the difference between Abraar and Muqarrabeen. So this is a concept that's been defined in Quran as well. So this is the state of the Nihilate. Nihilate is Muqarrabeen. The forlorn ones are who? The Abraar. The forlorn ones do worshipping in fear and hope, and both these are directed to themselves. Now the Abraar, don't underestimate the, just because Mujaddid Sahab is explaining this from the perspective of Muqarrabeen. And since Muqarrabeen are so high statured, and their status is so high that we may think that maybe Abrars are, someone to look down upon. That's not the case. Abrar are again very highly elevated, very highly status, very highly placed, even in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has praised Abrar many times in the Quran. So here, because we are looking at this from the perspective of Muqarrabeen, remember Mujaddid Sahab is writing this Maktoob to one of his I looked up the Maktoob that it is actually addressed to, and he was one of the senior khulafa of Mujaddid Sahab rahmatullah alayhi, and there's a lot of detail. He's a very well documented person, and there's a lot of detail about him as well. So he's talking to one of his senior khulafas and telling him about these elevated status, because and these mashayikh, they in their writing, in their words, in their speech, they give their tawajjuhat that actually carries that feeling from alam-e mehsusat that we discussed. And it's not just mere words that are being spoken, it's that feeling that they carry them with themselves as well. So he's elevating his salik to that status from Abrar to Muqarrabeen. So this is now he's talking from the perspective of Muqarrabeen. So this is a disclaimer that we should all be wary of, to not look down upon Abrar. This is the state of the Nihilate, which is Muqarrabeen. The forlorn ones do worshipping in fear and hope, and both these are directed to themselves. Why? Mujaddid Sahab explains, this is because of their being deprived of the honor of essential love. Why are Abrar pursuing, following the love, the good deeds, and all these things? Because they have been deprived of essential love. They have not received the Tajalli Zati. So nuances of their own nafs are hiding. Although their nafs is not nafs lawwama, it is not guiding them to sins and lust and greed and envy and ego base. Their nafs is nafs lawwama, although it's not nafs mutmainna as yet, but it's nafs lawwama. It's pulling them towards good deeds, but they are doing those good deeds so that they get rewarded with Jannah. And why do they want Jannah? So that they can enjoy the benefits and the rewards of the Jannah. Although Jannah is something that all of us should strive for, because Jannah is the place of the Raza of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the place where we are going to actually be bestowed with the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we are going to truly be able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Abrar are pursuing the good deeds so that they can benefit and their nafs is driving them, because they believe that they have to do this, and they are true believers. They are pursuing good deeds, doing good amal, but the driving force is so that they get Jannah. And why do they want Jannah? Because so that they can enjoy the rewards of this Jannah. And why do they want to avoid Jahannam? So that they can avoid the azab, because their nafs is who wants to be punished, who wants to sustain. Remember one thing, now these guys are true believers. They have yaqeen, which is in itself a very, very high ni'mah, very, very high blessing. Because, like, for example, we can just look at ourselves. We know do bad things, we are going to be punished in the afterlife. Yet we do those deeds anyways. Why? Because we lack yaqeen. And we know that when we do good deeds, we are going to be rewarded in Jannah. Yet we don't do those good deeds. Why? Because we lack yaqeen. So these Abrar, they have actually attained that yaqeen, and they know that when they do the good deeds and avoid the bad deeds, so they are going to be bestowed with Jannah and avoid the hell. So that, but here the fine line is that their deeds are being driven by their own pursuit of Jannah and Jahannam for their own self. Now, listen to this. Hence, surely virtues of the forlorn ones are vices of the nihilist. Now, what Mujaddid Alf Sani is saying is beautifully is that from the perspective of Muqarrabeen, because they they are so purist in the pursuit of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that for them, even if you attain Jannah for your own nafs, even that is a sin for the Muqarrabeen. And this is such a beautiful statement. And in Arabic, this is a translation from an Arabic statement, which is Hasanatul Abrari Sayyiatul Muqarrabeen. That virtues of the Abraar are vices from the perspective of Muqarrabeen. Because if for a Muqarrabeen, if he does the same action, the same action, the same good deed that the Abraar is doing and is being rewarded. But if the Muqarrab, does the same thing with the same intention, for them, it becomes a sin. Because for them, anything that involves or is being driven by their own nafs is for them considered a sin. But virtues of the forlorn ones are virtues from one aspect and vices from another aspect. Like when you look at it, they're doing all the good things, all the right things, and they're doing it for Allah. But their end goal, and there is some sort of, and let me tell you, it's not completely driven by their nafs, because their nafs has diminished. It has diminished from the state of nafs ammara that completely pulls like a raging bull in the direction that of lust and greed and envy. So they've actually progressed and reduced their nafs, but it is still there. It is still there, and it is not yet nafs mutmainna. Whereas the virtues of the nihilid are pure virtues. The virtues of the Muqarrabeen are pure virtues. There is no factor, nothing of the nafs that is being the driving, that is the driving force. That is why there are some in Jannah who will be granted the didar, the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, once a month. There are once a week on Friday. There are some who will be granted the didar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once every day. But there are some who will be granted this didar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the time, at every moment. And who are those people? Who were just in pursuit of everything, even the Jannah, for the didar, for the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For them, their goal was not the beauties and the blessings and the rewards of Jannah. For them, their goal, the driving factor was just the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now we can understand then who were those people and what were the things that were happening at the back end. When we hear about them, okay, there are certain people who just pursue Jannah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will be granted didar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at every moment. But now we can understand what happens at the back end, how they got there, what the definitions are, what happens in the back end, and how they achieve this status. Yes, there are among the nihilite who worship Allah in fear and hope, despite their having perfect abiding and dissension to the world of means and measure. Okay. Are there any questions before I proceed with the explaining this particular?
I have two questions, if that's okay. One question is, you mentioned regarding the nafs. Is it possible that someone who is in nafs al-lawama to have hints or certain be given or shown what the mutmain nafs is like, and then it be taken away?
Yeah, it till we pass, till we die with the nafs mutmainna, there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee. because the mortal enemy, we are forgetting about one component, which is the mortal enemy of shaitan, that that is always constantly in pursuit and trying to. I'll explain this with the waqta of Hazrat Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah alayh. And once suddenly there was just lighting everywhere, and tajalliyat, sort of the appearance of tajalliyat, and a voice came that Sheikh Abdul Qadir, we are so happy and satisfied with what you've done that we have now forgiven and removed the obligation of salah, namaz from you, prayers. You don't have to pray anymore. So he realized, recognized that la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And uh, uh, rid me of your ridicule, you mardood shaitan. Because if namaz and prayers were not forgiven from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then who am I to be granted its status? So then he came back and he said, okay, you are protected because of your ilm and your knowledge. And he said, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. No, I'm not protected by my knowledge. I'm protected by the fazl and by the grace of Almighty and my beloved. He's the one who protected me. He's the one who saved me, not my ilm. There's one more story of it was a great Muslim philosopher. I'm forgetting his name. Uh, and he had 99 reasons for the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the one. And when his time came, Shaitan, he came and he asked him, okay, what is the, I think this was Imam Ghazali, rahmatullah alayh. And but I will confirm the name, inshallah ta'ala, in upcoming lessons, upcoming class. And he said, okay, what is the dalil and the what is the logical reason for existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this great Muslim philosopher, he gave one dalil, and Shaitan, you remember Iblis, he himself is a very knowledgeable person, and he was the Muallimul Malaika, he was the teachers of Malaika, and he has amassed great amount of knowledge. So he countered that dalil, and then that I'm going to say Imam Ghazali, but I'm going to correct myself in the upcoming lessons if the name is incorrect. But Imam Ghazali gave the second and the third and the fourth and so on and so forth. And he was about to come up till the 99th. And now he himself was getting, second thoughts and what is happening. And his sheikh, who was quite a distance away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him that his salik, his murid, was going through this dilemma. And he was doing wudu, ablution. And he had this kashf revelation at that time that your student is currently going through this difficult phase, and it is his last time, and Shaitan and Iblis is there. So he smacked his miswak on the tap and said, Ghazali, tell this mardud that you believe in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without any logical explanation. And you don't need any logical explanation to believe in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You just believe. And when he said that to the mardud, Imam Razi rahmatullah alayh, second great, the great philosopher, it is said that if true Muslim philosophers did not exist, Imam Ghazali and Imam Razi, then these philosophers would have completely abolished and consumed Islam through, they defended Islam from the philosophers. Imam Razi. So he said that his sheikh conveyed the message and the message was received. How, inshallah ta'ala, we are going to discuss these things in details in some upcoming maktubats when these topics come. And he was protected.
One more small question. In the Quran, Allah mentions the people of the right hand and the left hand, and then the forerunners. Are the people of the right hand the Abraar then? And then the forerunners are the Muqarrabeen?
You are talking about Surah Waqia, I presume.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Surah Waqia, exactly, there's a discussion of Muqarrabeen. The Sullatun min al-awwalin wa qalilun min al-akhirin. The first discussion is about the Muqarrabeen. Then
Right.
when the topic comes about Sullatun min al-awwalin wa Sullatun min al-akhirin, that is Abraar. And then the discussion moves on to the people who have led astray. Yes, Qasim.
Yeah, and the line right here, yes, there are among the Nile that is the Muqarrabeen who also such who worship Allah in fear and hope.
Hmm.
Is this not part of their nafs that they're worshipping Allah in fear and hope?
No, because it's going to come as in this line here. But their fear and hope are not concerning themselves. Rather, they worship in the hope of His pleasure and in the fear of His wrath. They want to go avoid the hell because they know that that is where Allah's wrath is. It is not to protect themselves or their bodies or their nerves from the fire. They want to avoid it to avoid the naraz the what's the word for narazgi in English, Qasim? The displeasure of their beloved. They don't want to go there because that is where the wrath and dislike of their beloved exists, and they want to go to Jannah and paradise because that is where the the their beloved wills them to go, not for their own self, so that they can enjoy the the wines and the blessings of Jannah. They don't want that. They want the pleasure and they seek the beloved itself. So it is clarified in the upcoming passage. Okay, so now here a concept is discussed. Okay, we are very short on time, and this concept needs a lot of explaining, especially this world dissension to the world of means and desires. And I don't want to let it's okay. We are not actually time bound. I don't want this to be a session where we are in a rush to complete the sessions rather than uh, gain the actual meaning that is to be gained from this. Although in the upcoming lectures, we are going to keep the Q&A towards the latter part so that we can proceed with the section, because some of the questions are actually answered in the upcoming passages. So I think let's call it for this session, and let's see if we have some more questions regarding the things that we have discussed, and take up this concept and these concepts in the next session, inshallah. So are there any questions? Alhamdulillah, no questions. That's
Could I get a copy of the book?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm looking for a better print, all because this is this is actually, I think someone has taken pictures of this. I'm looking for a better print. Inshallah, if I find it, I'm going to purchase it and share it. But I will share this particular one on the group as well.
Oh, who's this translation done by?
I'll share the name of the author as well.
Okay. Do you think this is a good translation?
Yeah, this is a very good translation, but we have to some of the things, like for example, I always keep the Urdu version open here on the side, and because this Urdu version is absolutely authentic, and although the English version is, but some of the things get lost in the English translation. Like for example, this particular passage that we are going to the concept of the fallen ones. However, he who has not descended to the world of means and measure, this concept we will discuss, he is among the fallen ones and has no share in the excellences related to the station of prophethood. Now here it is presumed, and it gives the vibe that maybe the fallen ones are, someone who are actually in third category, like we discussed from Surah Baqarah. But that's not the case. These are awliya mustahlikin. Some of the awliya, and inshallah we're going to discuss in detail, when they attain the Tajalli Zati and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they get so consumed by it. And the other word for this is majzoob awliya. Inshallah, we are going to also discuss these concepts in some of the, because I know in Maktoobat, a lot of discussion around, but not a lot, but discussion has come around majzoob awliya as well. So now these are awliya, and they are very elevated. They are Muqarrabeen as well, but they are not. They have not descended to the world of means, and the which is also known as alam asbab. This is a very important word term that we will discuss inshallah ta'ala. So they are actually not on the same level as the ones who have descended to the alam asbab and the worlds of means, and now these ones who have actually descended, now the people can benefit from them. Whereas awliya mustahlikin, which are defined as the fallen ones, which are majzub, people cannot benefit from them because they are lost in them. They're in their own visualizations and their own connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are in a for a normal person like us, they may seem even as people who are not sane, but they are very elevated, and some of them actually have duties, and this is another complete world, and inshallah, a very mysterious world that we will definitely uh, pass on very very lightly. But the famous waqia of Hazrat Mansur Hallaj rahmatullah alayh, that when he started saying Anal Haq, Haq
Mm.
means Haq is a sift of Allah. Al Haq, I am Allah. And he was sentenced to be beheaded. And he was sentenced to be beheaded. And in the people who decided that was Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullah alayhi as well. When he was being beheaded, Hazrat Mansur Hallaj called out to uh, Hazrat Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullah alayhi that you know what I am saying, what I'm going through, and you know the reality. So Hazrat Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullah alayhi said, yes, I do know, but we are bound by the rules of Sharia, and the Sharia tells us that when someone utters these words that I am Allah, that he's uh, committing a grave sin and has to be sentenced and punished for it. And when he was beheaded, every drop of his blood that fell, and because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to show the people what his real karamat was and how elevated a status he was at, when every drop of his, and this is all documented history, from his blood was shouting out that everybody could hear Anal Haq, Anal Haq, Anal Haq. So he was at that stage. He was from the awliya mustahlikin, the fallen ones that we are going to cover. So now this concept is clear, inshallah, to at least the people who are attending this session, and they won't be confused from the English translation when it says the fallen ones, because they are not actually the fallen from grace. They're not. They've that's just a term that is defining awliya mustahlikin. I hope, because we are going to discuss this inshallah in detail in the next session. So it is going to come up. Uh, Today was a very interesting session for me. I hope you guys. What I would request from you guys, because I'm in Medina, Alhamdulillah, is just send the names of the group members in the group, so I can convey salam on your behalf, inshallah, to brothers.
Walaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Inshallah, inshallah. So I'll be seeing you guys next week, inshallah, if there are no more further questions.
Assalamu alaikum. Hazrat, I just have some admin questions, so if you want to stop recording, it's fine.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. Let me just stop.
Voila.